Hey gang, iDuck here. This is the eve before the first track day for the 400, and so on this little video installment I'll go over details of how I get prepped for track day with some little tidbits I've learned along the way from lots of nice people, and hopefully my little tidbits will help you have a successful track day, whether it's your first or your 100th. I think these little tidbits are helpful for anyone getting ready to take their daily driver onto the track. So, first step for me is always washing the car. I think washing the car is important because you get to wash around in your hands over everything, removing dirt and debris, make sure that everything looks good from the outside, and sort of gives yourself a clean slate. Besides, clean equals fast. So, first we're going to give the car a nice little bath, and then we'll go from there. So I got the car washed. It's now inside the garage, and so I'm going to dry it off. And the first thing I'll do is when I dry it off is I want to make sure that all the, and you could want to do this during your washing too, but make sure there's no damage to your body that you have to sort of mark on, or any loose body panels like those barge boards you installed weeks ago. You want to make sure everything's kind of solid so that they don't come flying off during your track day. So here goes with the drying. Alright, so now the car is pretty clean, fairly dry, and as it's air drying, which will take a couple more minutes after I've washed, or I should say wiped off the major beads of water with microfiber, I'm going to now do the next step, which is remove all loose items from inside the car. If you have an S1, for example, besides crap in your glove box, you may have floor mats in the front, which may not be tightly adhered. You may have stuff in the trunk, so you really want to make sure that all the loose garbage and accoutrements can be removed from the car. So let's do that next. So looking at the interior, on the 400, the floor mats are actually pretty solidly bolted in, quote unquote. It's not moving. In the trunk, back area, of course, mine is a daily driver with my kid seat in there, so out it comes. Okay, so this is the back interior, and while we're back here, you might consider belting the rear seats because they will rattle around a little bit as you're driving around at speed, and that you might find that distracting. So I'm going to go ahead and buckle the rear seat belts as well as the passenger side seat belt, since I don't anticipate having a passenger. While I'm going through the interior of the car, making sure that any loose items such as these baby lights are removed. For the passenger side, I like to move the passenger seat all the way to the back, so it's basically out of my sight line, because everything to maximize sight lines for a track day is certainly advisable. And then, as I mentioned, you may want to buckle the seat belts so that they aren't rattling around as you're on the track. And of course, don't forget the glove box. In the 400, it's a manual glove box, and I'm going to pull all the crap out of it for now. Certainly you may need to bring your DMV paperwork and whatever, but you can store that in your go bag for the track, and we'll talk about that in a bit. The rest of the dash looks in order. I'll talk a little bit about phone and or camera mounts a little bit later, but everything looks pretty good in the interior standpoint. And here's the trunk compartment, and in the trunk, one more thing I like to do is the trunk carpet is usually removable, and so I'll go ahead and remove that. So there comes the trunk carpet. So don't forget your little can of Fix-A-Flat in the corner, that has to come out as well, and so I will remove that now. I like to remove the light bulbs out of the trunk area. because you'll find during track day that you'll probably want to pop your trunk periodically to air out the engine compartment. So I'm just going to pop that bayonet out like so. So as I said, here's with a little bit better lighting. I'd like to remove the battery cover to the engine, to the battery. So I have quick access to the battery, and also can check that the battery is secure and are ready for tracking. So on the 400, there are actually these nice 4 little knurled knobs, and then the plastic cover comes right off. And in this case, you see my Shirai installation, and I'm going to give it a good shake and make sure all the terminals are nice and tight. Cinch down the holding bolts one more time. Again, this is very secure and sturdy, so I have no doubt that this will serve me well on the track. So here's the 400's engine, and so what I'm going to do is look around, make sure that I don't see any leaks, that all the hoses appear intact and in place, and then check my fluids. On the 400, 3 fluids you have to check from the engine compartment. This is coolant, and then this is coolant for the intercooler or charge cooler, and then of course oil level. In general, you want the coolant level to be at factory spec, which is at least at minimum, but not over maximum, so this doesn't get over pressurized. Same thing with the coolant. And then for oil, the recommendation is to really have it right at the very max, because your enemy at a track is oil starvation, so you want to make sure that your oil is truly topped off. Everything else here looks pretty good. Everything looks very solid and clean. I don't see any sort of worrisome things. Of course, it's a pretty brand new car, but an older car, you really want to go carefully and check all your wires and cables, make sure everything is secured properly. Ha ha ha. Lesson learned on the 400. It is not right in the center, big metal box, but in the passenger well. Took. Did you see that? Took. That pops the front compartment. Alright, so we got that popped open, and you can see here the levels are on the side of the bottle here, and I can see that's topped off nicely. If you haven't had the fluid changed in the past year, it's certainly a good idea to do that, and at some point down the road I'll be doing that personally, and we'll have a video or DIY on how to do that. But it's an important thing to do is change your brake fluid, probably yearly, brake fluid / clutch fluid, to prevent any problems, particularly if you're tracking the car. And a lot of the older cars, the S1 Evoras, especially if you haven't had the brake clutch fluid change in a while, it'll make a big improvement in performance of both your clutch and your brakes. So do consider that. Washer fluid, don't really worry about, although I like to have some on board because you never know what debris gets kicked up on the track, and a quick wash from your washer sprayers may actually save you. So have some washer fluid in there as well. Alright, next step is going to be jacking up the car a little bit. When we jack up the car, first what we do is give each wheel a little shake. Make sure there's no looseness to the wheels or wheel bearings, that you can feel it really easy with just shaking the wheel around. Then we're going to remove 2 removable things, the center cap and the valve cover from each wheel, because those things oftentimes like to jettison in terms of center cap, and the valve cover you want off because you want to be able to adjust your air pressure in your tires liberally when you're at the track. Some essential tools for the track include a tire gauge, 17mm socket, and if you have factory wheels, the star tool, and a torque wrench, which I have right here. So what we're going to do first, before we lift the car up all the way, the first wheel, is I'm going to loosen the lug nuts up a little bit, and then we'll jack the car up, give the wheel a little shake, make sure it's okay, and then remove the center cap. Alright, so once the car's lifted up, you want to give your wheel a little shake, a little push, a little budge, make sure it doesn't feel loose in your hand, nothing rattles around in there, just to make sure the wheel bearings and stuff are all okay. If you get any crazy play just by pumping the car around, maybe you shouldn't be taking the car to the track, and you need to investigate that further. So now we're going to get this wheel off. I've already loosened up the lugs, so of course we just use the darn star tool and unscrew these 5 bolts. All right, now that the wheel's off, just have to pop the center cap off. Usually just by giving a little firm push from the back. There is a little spring clip here, but honestly that's all it takes. There are ways to remove it from the front, but I'm always afraid of gouging the center cap off, so I prefer to just push it out in my hand to protect it and then save them, along with the valve cap covers. Before you put the wheel back on, inspect the back. Make sure you have all your weights on like they were before. If you're anal, you might want to clean your wheel at this point. I'm not going to do that. However, I'm going to look at the brake system, make sure I have enough meat on my brake pad, make sure that everything looks pretty sturdy here. Take a look at your coils, make sure that there's no grease coming out of your damper, and that your wheel liner's in place and everything looks kind of tidy, which in this case it does. So at this point, I'm going to put the wheel back on, torque it to spec, and then repeat for the other 3 wheels. So this is how one wheel should look like when you're done. No center cap, torque down, in this case to 105 nanometers, which works out to about, Newton meters, which works out to about 85 pound-feet torque. And the valve cap or valve stem cover taken off as well. Looks pretty mean. So now I've got 3 more wheels to do and a couple last things after that. So we got all the wheels buckled down, got the center caps off. So one of the last things you have to do is put a tow hook in your car. Most track days require you to do that. So in the 400, you just have to look in this inner corner here, and the S1 has a similar hole right in the grill, usually covered by this little rubber plug which is in there. You pull the rubber plug out with a pair of needle nose pliers, and then this is a tow hook right here. Tow hook installs right in that hole, and it is actually screwed in counterclockwise. So you've got all the loose bits out of the car, got everything tightened down, got the wheels torqued, and you got the centers and the caps off. So you're basically good to go, except for one last thing on the car. You do any track day, most track day courses need numbers on the car to identify it. And so if this is your first time, or you just gotta do them occasionally, certainly blue painter's tape works. But I've been tracking a fair amount with the Evora S, and so I'm gonna use the same vinyl numbers on the 400. So here goes. So this is a vinyl stick-on number that I've used for now my 3rd season. I got them printed by graphics house that's a sponsor of the Golden Gate Lotus Club, which I'm a member of. Each club is a little different. Oftentimes they'll assign you a number or let you pick a number. 914 was the last 3 digits of the VIN number on the Evora S I had, and it's a great number. As a side, I think it's kind of ironic that 914 is a mid-engine Porsche, and of course now I'm putting it on a mid-engine Lotus. So anyway, to apply these, basically squirt lots of soapy water in the back, put it onto the door, and squeegee the soapy water out, and you got yourself a stuck-on number. Works great. So here goes. So you can see I've squirted some soapy water on the door panel, and also squirted some soapy water on the back side of the vinyl. I then just apply it on there, and then take a squeegee and squeegee the bubbles out. Pretty simple. Yes, the number looks pretty dirty. I can be a little anal and polish it up in a second. But the key is, more than anything else, get all the bubbles out. Because if there's any bubbles left, when you're driving at speed, that will allow this to peel right off. The beauty about this vinyl panel is that it is 100% reusable as long as you take good care of it. So at the end of the track day, I will slowly peel it off, squirt some soapy water in the back of it, and readhese it to the carrier paper. So I'm going to give this a little wipe, and it should look good to go. little microfiber cloth to wipe it down. A couple air bubbles still in there, which we'll massage out. But overall, I think it looks pretty darn good. Well, that's it for my video on getting your car ready for the track. Hopefully you liked the video, and if so, please like us. Also subscribe to our channel, Daily Driven Lotus, and share it with your friends. Check out our Facebook page, Daily Driven Lotus, which also will have photos and other little tidbits, and we'll continue adding content as we go along. Finally, please leave comments, suggestions, so we continue to improve our content and to continue to help you enjoy your Lotus daily.